What's up, y'all? AJ here, and we actually got some breaking news, which a lot of this is going to be all coaching departures, and obviously the main topic is easily the biggest one of all, but we're just going to jump right into things, and we're going to talk about something that I don't find terribly surprising, but the Cowboys firing defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. I mean, I don't know if this guy's going to catch too many breaks here. I mean, maybe if they try to bring him back or something with the Chiefs, I don't know. Either way, the defensive coordinator, former head coach of the Chicago Bears, was let go, and I'm pretty sure this was his only season as the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, much like the next topic I'm going to discuss, I feel as if defensively the situation where Dallas was concerned was a bit in shambles. I mean, it doesn't help that it starts with the Cowboys trading away Micah Parsons early in the season, and then of course they just recently released Trayvon Diggs, who, interestingly enough, because of said relationship or because of relationship with aforementioned Micah Parsons, he wound up signing with the Green Bay Packers. And actually, I take that back. He was claimed off of waivers, which that surprised me given the fact that had they waited for him to come off of waivers, they'd have only had to pay him $472,000. Now, I don't know if that's them claiming him off of waivers as their plan of signing him long term. Maybe it is, but really wild that that wound up being the case. Either way, I don't think this was meant to be an overly good year for the Cowboys, one way or another. I mean, they've had an awful lot of injuries on both sides of the ball that just seem to have found ways to affect really their overall play. It didn't even really matter whether it was offense or defense that we're talking about. It just, as I was saying, it just has not been an overly good year for the Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, there's really only so much that could be said about it on both sides of it. Now, you're not only looking for another defensive coordinator to work with under Brian Schottenheimer, but you're pretty much in rebuild mode if you're the Cowboys, and it really hasn't been pretty. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think there's an argument that could be made this probably should have started a little sooner than what it has. But I don't know. We'll see how all of this works out. Really wild to see this happening now, but man, poor Matt Eberflus. That's all I know to say about that. Nonetheless, we're going to move right along into the next topic, which actually stays within the NFC East. Only we're talking about the Commanders, and this involves Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Witt Jr. Of course, Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator and Joe Witt Jr. being the now former defensive coordinator for the Commanders. Of course, it seems Kingsbury and the Commanders mutually agreed to part ways, which is really interesting how that works out. But of course, Witt Jr., on the other hand, is fired, which I'm not going to go into any aspects of that. That's just what it is. But either way, this is every bit as an alarming a situation. I feel like really the issue for the Commanders was more health related, as they just got hit with a rash of injuries, especially when you factor in what happened with Jaden Daniels. But to me, it's rather interesting that this decision was made on the part of the Commanders, as they actually got to the NFC Championship game last season, unlike the Cowboys, who have been in and out of the playoffs at best and really haven't been doing a whole lot, even if they got in. But really, at this point now, it's kind of a what happens next with the Commanders, because again, we're talking about a team that last year was in the NFC title game. As stated, injuries wound up being even more of an issue. But I don't know, just really wild to see how all of this is working out. But more particularly in the case of Cliff Kingsbury, I feel like it's a similar situation to Matt Eberflus. Of course, he got fired a couple of years back from the Arizona Cardinals as their head coach, and understandably so, as they just did not accomplish anything. Even in the one season where they started 1-0, still made the playoffs, even with a drop off after that loss to the Packers. It just does not seem that Kingsbury's finding anything that's working out for him very well, and I'm not sure that the NFL is going to work out for him, at least not anytime right away. Perhaps he ends up going back to college, and as far as Mr. Witt here, I really am not sure what to say. I don't know a whole lot about the guy, but for him to have gone from places like Dallas, and I believe Green Bay was another stop of his, and it just hasn't quite worked out that well. I mean, who knows what's going to wind up working out for him, but this is a little wild and out of nowhere as well, from out of nowhere as well, but I mean, damn. Just damn. The NFC East, other than the Eagles, I guess, and to some degree the Giants. But anyway, we're going to move right along to the main topic, and this is the breaking news of the hour, really. But John Harbaugh has been relieved of his head coaching duties with the Baltimore Ravens, and to me, I'm not terribly surprised at this. I find the timing a little weird because I feel like they would have done this yesterday. They actually had a press conference for John Harbaugh, but I don't know. I guess they got to talking about it today, and this is what we're getting. I mean, the man was with Baltimore for the better part of a decade and a half, really. I mean, led the Ravens to a Super Bowl, although it was pretty much the swan song of one Ray Lewis. But what's even more baffling is that, given that they won the Super Bowl, especially the way they did, I thought this was going to be something of an emergence for Joe Flacco, and that certainly went the opposite direction. And obviously we've seen him take a bunch of backup jobs, especially Cleveland and Cincinnati specifically, even though he did end up playing for both of those teams. But I guess I'm speaking on that specifically because chances are that's probably the last we're seeing of Joe Flacco as a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, obviously we had Phillip Rivers come through coming out of retirement, and now, interestingly enough, he has a shot at becoming a coach in the NFL. We'll probably talk about that at some point here, possibly even this week. But just focusing on Harbaugh specifically, there's been an awful lot of underachieving ever since. And especially having gone from Flacco to Lamar Jackson, they really haven't done a whole lot. Well, I shouldn't say they haven't done a whole lot in the playoffs, but when it comes to getting into the Super Bowl, especially with title game opportunity, specifically the one they had a couple of years ago against the Chiefs, and yet for whatever reason the Ravens just did not show up after a certain point. I mean, that's the part of it that just doesn't seem to be surprising in this situation, because sooner or later something's going to have to give, something's going to have to change. And then of course they, as recently as Sunday night, fall short of making it into the playoffs in that incredible season finale between the Steelers and the Ravens. It may actually be a little easier to argue the fact that this probably should have happened sooner. I know of at least a couple of Ravens fans that feel like it probably should have happened sooner, but I mean, I don't know. It just is going to be tricky, because who do you get now, especially after all this time, that's going to wind up filling the void? And not only that, actually getting the Ravens over the top to where they do get to and perhaps even win a Super Bowl. I mean, I think these are things that have to be asked, because, again, just much like the Steelers, the tenure that Harbaugh and Tomlin, at least up until today, that Harbaugh had, I mean, you figured they had to be looking to work something out. And again, it seems they probably had that conversation today. It just turns out this is the decision that was made for both sides. I mean, or maybe it was a firing, I don't know. I just know that this is just really wild to see right now. I mean, it's not surprising but it's wild to even be talking about it for the fact that I feel like John Harbaugh, even for all the shortcomings, one of the better coaches in the NFL right now. And I'd like to think somewhere along the way he'll wind up getting somewhere. I mentioned in the Broncos Talk video, the Titans have reached out and they're going to have an interview this week with Vance Joseph. I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that they look at doing. I mean, he's got the credibility. We'll see what happens there, but I'm going to leave it at that for right now. I just had to get this in as this is rather fresh. John Harbaugh, no longer head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Let me know what y'all think about that and some of the other news that I just broke down here in this video, amongst other things. And of course, y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. And for now, this has been your time with A&J, and I appreciate you spending it with me.